Hi friends, have you seen the price of eggs? Let's talk about 10 high protein egg substitutes that can beat the amount of protein in an egg and keep you full, help you poop, make it smell better, and not go broke. Now, if you use eggs for color and texture in your baked and cooked goods, I have some awesome healthy replacement options for that too. Let's start with protein because that's what my parents told me I should do. Eat your eggs for protein. Well, if protein is what you are after, then you should try this, an eggless egg salad made out of number 1, chickpeas. Chickpeas are high in protein, iron, and fiber. They also provide choline, although less in eggs. 1 large egg has 6 grams of protein. Well, you can get that by eating less than half a cup of cooked chickpeas. 1 egg is over $1, while a whole can of chickpeas is less than $1 at Target and has 3.5 servings. You can also open up the can and eat it directly and not worry about getting food poisoning with salmonella or E. coli infections, which comes with eating raw or undercooked eggs. And if you want an even better bargain, buy your chickpeas dried. An entire bag of dried chickpeas has 13 servings and it's only $1.50 at Walmart. You can barely buy 1 egg for that price these days. However, you have to make sure you cook your chickpeas thoroughly so that it is soft enough to squish in your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And if you are on a low-carb diet to avoid sugar spikes, then you'll be happy to learn that despite the fact that chickpeas has 3 grams of sugar per serving, which is really negligible, it has been proven to help people lower their blood sugars, not even for that meal, but also in subsequent meals. This means that the chickpeas that you eat for breakfast will continue to help lower your blood sugars even through lunch and dinner. Now, eggs don't do that. In fact, I'll tell you how eggs actually affect your blood sugars a little later. Now, do you put ketchup on your eggs? That was one of my favorite ways to eat them. Actually, I used to love ketchup and I would eat food to eat the ketchup. 1 tablespoon of ketchup has more sugar than your serving of chickpeas. However, the chickpea sugar is actually trapped in fiber. There is a food matrix. This is why beans are a low glycemic index and low glycemic load foods. This means that they cause a slow and gradual rise in blood sugar levels after you eat it. In other words, eating beans won't cause blood sugar spikes. Ketchup, on the other hand, is a highly refined engineered food made out of chemicals. There's no fiber in ketchup, and many fill it with high fructose corn syrup. Literally, there's a total of 5 grams of carbs in a serving of ketchup, and 4 grams is sugar, mostly from high fructose corn syrup. So if 4/5 of the calories you are eating is sugar, well, that's a definition of a candy. Unfortunately, ketchup may be the only vegetable Americans eat. Is high fructose corn syrup flavored with tomatoes a vegetable? To me, that's liquid tomato candy. And that's why I love ketchup so much. But I won't eat that stuff now. However, I do eat tomatoes with chickpeas a lot. Take a look at my sandwich. If you blend up chickpeas, it'll be creamy like a devil's egg. Both chickpeas and eggs are bland, and hence people can put all different kinds of seasoning and sauces to flavor it. Or you can actually use both chickpeas and eggs to make sauces, right? So if you want to make an eggless egg salad sandwich, like what I have here, rinse and drain your canned chickpeas and then mash it. Then you can season it like you would an egg. Now, I usually would add diced vegetables like carrots, onions, red bell peppers, and cucumbers because I like things crunchy. And that's what I did. I basically took a shortcut. I have a little handy individual food processor. I basically rinsed and drained my chickpeas from a can, put it through the food processor. If I put it coarsely, it looks like this. Take a look at that. That looks a lot like eggs. And if I blend it even more, it becomes a really fine, creamy texture, like what I did for these devil eggs. Now, to make it white, what I did was I cut up tofu. So this is tofu. Depending on what kind of texture of the egg white or eggless egg white you want. This is like a soft tofu. I kind of like that texture. You can have a medium tofu or a firm tofu, depending on what you want for your texture. So I put a soft tofu. I just carved it out to make it look like an egg. I blended the chickpeas, added seasonings on top. You can put paprika or pepper to give it that kind of reddish look. And this is delicious by itself. Although when I make a sandwich, I will put more more vegetables because that's kind of what I want to eat more of. And what I did was I took that food processor and then I added, celery, red bell pepper. I added red onions, green onions. I threw in like a tiny little jalapeno. I blended that together. If you want a binder, you can put a little bit of oil. I put a dash of olive oil to bind it together. And then I mixed this eggless egg mixture, which is chickpeas and tofu. I put it all together with some tomatoes and then some avocados to give me the sandwich. This is delicious. I can eat this any time of day. Number 2 are lentils. Beans and lentils are also both high in protein and iron. The difference is in the preparation. Raw beans have to be soaked overnight and then cooked to remove some of the anti-nutrients like the phytates and the lectins. Raw lentils don't need to be soaked before you cook them. But if you decide to soak them, you can make eggless lentil rolls, lentil tortillas, and lentil pancakes. They are all delicious. Now, did you know that there are different colored lentils? So if you want to make an eggless omelet, you can use yellow lentils. Yellow lentils can also make these. Remember green eggs and ham? Well, there are green lentils too, but it'll look even prettier if you blend some kale with your lentil batter. And if you put the cooked yellow lentils into the center of the green lentils with the kale blend, you'll get yourself some pretty healthy, good-looking green eggs. Now just make sure that you pre-soak the lentils overnight in the fridge and season to taste. And here are some portions of lentils to water. And unlike flour, where you have to add a binder like eggs to soften it up, pre-soaked lentils are already pretty soft and gluey due to its soluble fiber and protein, which both serves as a binder and food for your gut microbiome. Now, don't forget to add seeds to your mixture. When you add seeds, you're adding protein, flavor, and texture. For example, number 3, hemp seeds, has more protein than many other common seeds. Gram for gram, it has even more protein than your average egg. Just 3 teaspoons of hemp seeds are also a rich source of potassium, which 99% of Americans, they simply don't get enough of. By the way, eggs are a rather poor source of potassium. Another rich source of potassium are pumpkin seeds, which is number 4. 1 ounce has 226 milligrams of potassium. Both hemp and pumpkin seeds are a rich source of magnesium as well. And eggs are a poor source of magnesium. Now, most people eat eggs for breakfast because they think that protein will give them energy. But that's actually not true. Protein is a horrible source of energy. Carbohydrates and fats are how the body generates energy efficiently. If you want speed, that's in carbohydrates. And that's why eating sugar can make you bounce off the walls. Your body can't really store much carbs. So if you don't use it, well, you're just going to store it. And this is true with really any excess calorie. So any excess carbohydrate, protein, or fat, they are simply stored as fat. And fat is broken down to also serve as energy. That's why it's important to eat your carbs early in the day so that you can use it up. Eating carbs late at night, right before bed, when you're just sitting around or sleeping, will make you gain weight faster. But in reality, most people have plenty of energy on their body. I have plenty of energy. Therefore, you don't need to eat as soon as you wake up. What everyone should do is to make sure that they get hydrated. Now, think about how you feel when you first wake up. I feel thirsty. My mouth is dry, my tongue feels rough, and my skin feels a little bit rougher. My body is dehydrated. I haven't drank any water for several hours while I'm sleeping. Without an adequate amount of hydration, you basically don't have blood flow. And if you don't have blood flow, then you can't make energy well. But it's really not just drinking water. Good blood flow requires the right amount of sodium to potassium. And you don't get that proper ratio by eating electrolyte packets. In fact, 99% of electrolyte packets are horrible because they are full of sodium. And over 90% of people are overdoing the sodium bucket by eating breads, ultra-processed foods, and sauces. They don't need those electrolyte packets. And people wonder why they get swelling. Well, you get swelling or edema because sodium gets stored in your body. My friend called me up last week and complained that she woke up feeling all swollen. I asked her what she ate the day before, and she went out to eat at restaurants. Well, that is a great way to pack on sodium. Why do you think you like their food? It's because they add a lot of salt. And if you feel like you're getting swollen, you're probably overeating sodium. And that doesn't get peed out. That actually gets stored in your tissue. Wherever sodium goes, water flows. And when it comes to blood flow, though, before it actually gets in your tissue to swell it up, you will elevate your blood pressure. Fortunately, your body already comes with protective mechanisms to prevent this from happening. And this is the other mineral called potassium. It balances sodium. To maintain good blood pressure, an adequate amount of potassium is needed to counteract the abundance of sodium. This is called a sodium-potassium ratio. A healthy person needs to be consuming less than 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day and more than 3,500 milligrams of potassium per day. We are all getting Fs. We are failing, and hence over half of America has high blood pressure, and 3/4 of them don't have it under control. High blood pressure is any number over 120. In the past, people thought it's okay if you're close. When you go to a gas station, are you going to be putting diesel in your unleaded car just because it's close to gasoline? No, any amount of diesel will damage your unleaded car. And the more diesel you put in that unleaded car, the worse off you will be. So we all will never do that. But we make exceptions to high blood pressure all the time. The longer you have high blood pressure, the more damage your body suffers, especially sensitive organs like your kidneys and your brain. And the solution is really simple in concept. Eat more potassium-rich whole foods. And those are in leafy greens and beans. But unfortunately, there are people who can't tolerate potassium-rich foods because they've already damaged their kidneys and have chronic kidney disease. Now, normally, your electrolytes like sodium and potassium, they're controlled by your kidneys. And ideally, if you overeat sodium or potassium, your kidneys will filter them out and excrete them in your urine. However, excess sodium, I had mentioned previously, gets trapped in your tissue and elevates your blood pressure, then that damages your kidneys, even though you may not feel any of that. When your kidneys are damaged, well, the filter doesn't work. They can't balance your electrolytes. And there's no one size fits all. Each electrolyte has its own therapeutic window. Too high or too low can leave severe and devastating consequences for many organs, especially your heart and brain. Hence, it's super important to protect your kidneys by keeping your blood pressure normal. Not surprisingly, we're so deficient that even potassium salts have been shown to reduce blood pressure. But you don't get the plethora of other beneficial nutrients if you don't eat whole foods.
Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
Now, we've had many egg shortages in recent years, and I wondered, why do Americans eat so many chicken eggs? Well, apparently chickens are easy to domesticate. Unlike ducks and quails, they don't fly away. They also lay eggs frequently. Hens lay eggs pretty much every day, while ducks and geese lay seasonally. And chicken eggs are large, easy to harvest, whereas it will take you forever to get quail eggs, and it's impractical to use ostrich eggs. Unfortunately, chicken farming, whether in factory farms, free range, or backyard setups, have contributed and will contribute to various diseases affecting both chickens and humans, like avian influenza or bird flu, which is why we have an egg shortage. And it's not going away. We will continue to have egg shortages. Avian influenza is caused by influenza A strains, such as H5N1, H7N9, and H5N8. Basically, an infected wild bird or its secretions and droppings need only to contaminate one chicken, and then it will spread amongst the rest of the flock through their droppings, saliva, contaminated feed, or water. And the problem is bird flu can jump to humans through direct contact when they handle the birds or contaminated surfaces, but also through inhalation, just inhaling flu particles that float in the air. And that's really why people get so sick and get so sick so often. Hence, if you're coughing, sneezing, or you're simply sick, be considerate and don't spread your germs around. Cover your mouth and nose with a mask. Wash your hands after you pick your nose or touch your secretions. Don't lick your fingers and then touch common surfaces. And if you don't want to do that, then maybe you should lay low until your symptoms improve. And some people think that everyone's overreacting. Heard of the 1918 Spanish flu? It was worse than the events of 2020 and 2021 combined. The 1918 Spanish flu wiped out an estimated 50 to 100 million people worldwide. It was caused by H1N1, which spread rapidly across the globe between 1918 and 1920. And guess where the infection started? Turns out the first recorded outbreak occurred in March 1918 in Camp Folsom, Kansas, among U.S. soldiers preparing for World War I. Fascinating that people forgot about that. People in close quarters, whether they are soldiers, high school students, or college students, share more germs. And then when you move, like troop movements during the war, well, you just basically spread it worldwide. So why is it called the Spanish flu? Well, Spain was actually neutral during World War I and had no wartime censorship, unlike other countries, which suppressed the news to avoid panic. So Spain freely reported the outbreak. Now imagine if they had social media back then. So people mistakenly thought Spain was the epicenter, leading to the name Spanish flu. Ironic, isn't it? The world blames Spain when all along the flu started in America. But really, it could have started anywhere. Any country that congregates animals like the way we do, well, you're just waiting for an outbreak to happen. But in reality, we all know not everyone with the flu gets bad symptoms. It really depends on the dose of germs you get, as well as your underlying immune system. If you get it bad, you'll get symptoms like fevers, chills, muscle aches, severe fatigue. Super bad can make you turn blue. That's cyanosis because you can't breathe. You don't get enough oxygen. You can also have hemoptysis or bleeding in your lungs. That can cause a pneumonia, and that makes oxygen getting even worse, right? That's kind of suffocation. And then, of course, people may not make it. And if it's really severe, it can happen within hours because it can induce heart attacks. Hence, if you are concerned, go see your medical doctor. You should also have a pulse oximeter. This device measures your heart rate as well as how much oxygen that you're getting in your body. So if your heart rate is high, that means you're excited or you're struggling to get oxygen so that your heart has to pump faster. As a reminder, this is not medical advice, but if your heart rate stays over 100, you should talk to your medical doctor to ask them what's going on. If your pulse oximeter is 95 or below, you should call your medical doctor, especially if it doesn't correct after you take some deep breaths. And even if it's normal and you feel short of breath, you should contact your medical doctor. And this would mean a trip to the ER. Not getting enough oxygen is not something you should wait on. So a pulse oximeter is helpful when you feel short of breath, when you have a cold or have chest pain, because these numbers will help your doctors understand physiologically what is happening inside your body. And when it comes to the flu, just because you think you're young and healthy doesn't mean that you're out of the woods. Unlike normal flu strains, the 1918 flu mainly got healthy young adults ages 20 to 40 instead of the usual high-risk groups like the children and elderly. Hence, it's really important not to underestimate the avian flu. And that's why we have an egg shortage. There were at least 50 million up to 100 million that didn't survive. And whether or not get hit and survive is determined by whether your body can mount the appropriate inflammation. Because inflammation in the wrong organs can be bad. If this happens in your heart, you get a heart attack. If it happens in your brain, you get strokes. If it happens in your kidneys, well, then you can't pee. If it happens in the liver, then you get jaundice because you can't poop bile and toxins. India lost 17 million people, making it the hardest hit country. The US suffered 675,000 casualties. That's just because of the avian flu. The life expectancy in the US dropped by 12 years in 1918. Since then, we haven't really addressed the root cause for why people get so sick. It's really not just the luck of the draw. Your immune system needs equipment to work properly, and that equipment is in your lifestyle, specifically in your foods. So many people aren't eating the right foods, and even worse, they're flooding their bodies with the wrong foods filled with toxins. And I'm sure you've gotten the flu and thought it was no big deal. So why was the 1918 flu so bad? Again, it's because of inflammation. And a person's lifestyle determines how quickly you can mount a proper immune response. And that is up to your equipment. Do you have the right equipment, the right nutrients to help your immune system out? Because if your immunity can't get it together, then you'll struggle to mount the right inflammation to prevent you from getting the infection. And once you're infected, then you got to clear it. That's also through inflammation. So hence, your immune system determines whether or not you will survive and how well you will survive. Personally, I don't want to take that chance, so I'd rather not get exposed. But in case that doesn't work, there are things that I do to train my immune system every day. However, the ideal scenario is to never get exposed. If you think about during World War I, people congregated together in trenches and barracks and hospitals. What a great way to spread germs in the air. Today, we go to offices, schools, stores, restaurants, parties, basically any indoor box that traps in germs. It'd be nice if we learned something from 1918 and then 2020 and all required indoor spaces to have good HEPA filtration, kind of like an airplane. In an airplane, during flight, the air quality is actually very good. Ironically, there is a massive TB outbreak in Kansas currently, and I don't think that they got that from an airplane. Personally, to me, if there's no HEPA filters, I basically will bring my own HEPA filter or I'll wear an N95 mask. Now, number 5 is America's most popular nut, almonds, which not only provide 6 grams of protein, but also vitamin E and healthy fats. And did you know that people who eat almonds have better looking skin? In the store, you're going to find almond flour. Don't pick the blanched almond flour. They are a different nutritional profile because they're missing the skin. The skin is really important to eat when it comes to eating nuts. That's because it's full of antioxidants. Number 6 is my favorite nut, walnuts, which are rich in omega-3 fatty acids called alpha-linolenic acid, which has 4.3 grams of protein. Americans are seriously deficient in omega-3 fats. Hence, I am always looking for more natural sources, like flaxseeds, which are number 7. They are also a rich source of omega-3s. Flax seeds also have phytoestrogens and lignans that appear to be protective against cancer, like breast and prostate cancer. So I try to eat flaxes daily, and I hide it in my kids' food, like in their bread. By the way, in this eggless egg salad sandwich, you can actually elevate it by adding avocado, number 8, which is another excellent source of potassium, and it has 3 grams of protein. Avocados are great, savory or sweet, and I think it's because it's just so creamy due to its high content of monounsaturated fats. Now, so far, everything that I've listed is actually deficient in vitamin B12, which is present in eggs. And usually, I would recommend just taking a supplement if you don't eat any animal products. If you want to add a cheesy taste to your sandwich, sprinkle some nutritional yeast. But you have to get the ones that are fortified with vitamin B12. Take a look at this yellow color, right? It's actually rich in B vitamins. Now, not only does it give a cheesy taste to your food, but it's also a great source of protein. And I eat it because it reduces my hay fevers. Now, number 10 is my favorite protein substitute, tofu. That's what this white part is. Have you ever eaten tofu? Unless you check out an Asian grocery store, you really won't know the countless amount of textures, shapes, and flavors that they make tofu in. I personally love tofu noodles, and I will usually eat those noodles like a cold salad mixed with different kinds of vegetables like carrots, celery, and sprouts, and then some seeds like sesame seeds, spices like garlic, as well as pepper. The softer the tofu, the less protein is in that tofu. So this is a soft tofu. There's also an even softer texture called a silken tofu. That tastes a lot like pudding. And so that doesn't have a lot of protein. And the firmer you go, the more protein your tofu has. In fact, I just ate half a block of tofu yesterday for dinner. If you eat 3.5 ounces of a firm tofu, you can get 15 grams of protein. Now, some of you may use eggs because you want it to be a binder for baking. I've been actually eggless for over a decade now because I'm actually allergic to eggs and I really don't like the taste. So I try really hard not to eat it. Now, of course, when you use a substitute, you're not going to get the exact texture of an egg because it's not an egg. But you can achieve some of the basic principles. Now, when you put an egg into a cookie, you're basically softening the dough and adding moisture, and then you're using it as a binder. And in my videos, I've showed you several things that I've baked. I've never used eggs in any of them. And it still sticks together. I can hold it up and it doesn't fall apart. But when you make eggless cookies, it's not going to have the texture of a traditional chocolate chip cookie because that texture can only be achieved when you add a lot of chemicalized sugar, saturated fat, along with eggs. And I use none of those. So here are some alternatives that I do use. Number 1, I use flaxseed meal. So you can combine a tablespoon of flaxseed meal with 3 tablespoons of water. That is equivalent to an egg, and it's great for binding cookies, cakes, and muffins. The second one would be a tablespoon of chia seeds with 3 tablespoons of water. That can also provide structure and moisture for your cakes and breads. Now, if you don't have those, you can use a mashed banana. A 1/4 cup is equal to an egg. It adds moisture and slight sweetness. Those are probably best with something like a muffin or bread. Bananas will also hold your flour together. You can use unsweetened applesauce. A quarter cup is equivalent to an egg, which works similarly to a banana, but it will have less flavor impact. Now, I found applesauce doesn't quite hold the flour together, but it does make your ingredients a little denser because it's wet. You can use aquafaba. 3 tablespoons is equivalent to an egg. This is a liquid from canned chickpeas. You can whip it up and it serves as egg whites for meringues and mousses. And the reason why it works is because the liquid has a lot of protein as well as soluble fiber. Now, if you do use that liquid, try to make your own chickpeas or buy chickpeas from a glass container. I generally try not to eat the liquid in a metal can because it's lined with some sort of plastics that may contain BPA. And you can collect high levels of BPA in your body. Now, silicon tofu, a quarter cup, can be equivalent to an egg. It's great for really dense foods like brownies and cheesecakes. You can also make puddings or mousse. And when you bake that, it's just going to dry up and firm up. And you can season it like a brownie or cheesecake. And one trick to kind of get rid of that bean taste is to add lemon zest and a squeeze of lemon juice. Now, pumpkin puree, you can also use that too. A quarter cup is equivalent to an egg. It provides moisture and structure. It's best for baked goods. And you can also add it along with your tofu. Literally, you can make this into a pumpkin pie or a cheeseless pumpkin cheesecake. And if you want to add sweetness, make sure that you're not eating sugar or honey or molasses or maple syrup. Use whole fruit like pureed dates. And then generally, a block of tofu can be sweetened with 10 medjool dates. Now, if you added the pumpkin puree, it of course dilute the sweetness. But if you added a sweet squash like kombucha squashes, then that will elevate your sweetness. And then season it up with pumpkin spice. You can eat it as is, or you can put it in the oven and bake it so that you can serve it warm. But eggs are really versatile. It can change your texture depending on what you do with it and how you cook it. And here are some ways in which you can also have close to those different egg textures. But my mom made savory steamed eggs so that you can make your flan sweet or savory. Now, she would put diced onions and garlic, add water so it kind of gets softer and fluffier. And you can do the same thing by blending soft tofu with vegetables and mushrooms. It tastes quite delicious to steam. Now, if you're looking for the scrambled egg texture, I would get a firm tofu, crumble that up, you pan fry it with some turmeric and spices, and it can mimic that scrambled egg texture and look. The turmeric gives it that yellow color. Now, if you want to make a boiled egg like this, you shape your silken tofu. That will replace the egg white, and then you puree your chickpeas. You can add a little turmeric to give it more of a color. Or you can add nutritional yeast, and that will give it a more cheesy flavor. If you want to make an omelet, and if you hadn't had time to soak your lentils, you can buy some chickpea flour. You add some water, it makes a batter, you add some seasonings, and then you can make your omelet. Now, don't forget to put some vegetables inside. And if you want the fried eggs, well, you can slice up the tofu, pan fry that, add some turmeric, add some chickpea flour for your yolk, or just cook chickpeas and mix it together so it kind of has that look. Now remember, eggs, that yellow color is easy to achieve. And don't put food coloring, that's not the way you want to eat. Egg yolks are yellow due to carotenoids. And there are lots of things in nature that give you that natural color with power to help your immune system. Number 1 is turmeric, which provides that golden yellow hue with a ton of anti-inflammatory power. I eat it daily. I add it to my foods all the time. Number 2 is nutritional yeast. It gives it a umami flavor because it has amino acids. And this color is beautiful. It has that eggy color. But the best part about it is that it can boost your immune system by increasing your salivary IgA levels, and that helps you defend against pathogens. Now remember, this is all dead yeast, but you still get the benefits of its cell wall, which is made out of beta-glucan crosslinks. Turns out that beta-glucan really stimulates our immune system to fight germs. Other vegetables like carrots or pumpkin puree, that can also give you that yellow color because it is also made out of beta-carotene. And if you've noticed, farm fresh eggs have a more orange appearance because they're probably fed more orange color foods. Other spices like saffron, well, that's actually the most expensive spice in the world. That also turns food into a natural yellowish color, and it gives it a tangy flavor. Annatto can be used to give a more orange appearance. Eggs act as binders, leaveners, and moistures, right, for your baking goods. So here are some ways in which you can replace eggs. If you use eggs to add yellow to your food, then you can use these substitutes instead. A quarter teaspoon of turmeric for golden yellow, a teaspoon of nutritional yeast for that umami flavor, as well as that yellow color. You can use a pinch of saffron or annatto, or carrot or pumpkin puree. And yellow lentils also can be used as a binder, and it gives it that yellow color. You may be surprised that I eat sandwiches, and I sometimes do when I have the right bread. So which is the healthiest bread? Well, watch the next video to find out.